United Kingdom, good morning. Talking about love and Tamil movies. A lot of fighting in them, Lakhi Singh. Good morning to Lakhi Singh, the property fixer. And today, Wikipedia live story of Mr. Singh, the ever-growing, the ever-influencing Mr. Singh's life story. Interesting things about the man, the shaker, the maker, the acre, the mover, the hoover, the rover. But there is such thing as a rover, probably more of a rover. Okay, sir. Good morning. What's the weather like there in United Kingdom?
It's quite a nice day, actually. It's not raining. It was quite a dry day yesterday as well. So I've been taking advantage of the, let's say, no rain yesterday and today. But
Excellent.
last up to Saturday, just poured down pretty much every single day. So it's been a bit crazy.
Excellent, excellent. And do you think that it's helped the weather a bit, the rain?
Yeah, I think the weather, having rain is always nice. So went for about 12-mile hike yesterday, and got knee deep in water. Yes, I think it's definitely helped for me to enjoy the weather. Yeah, the big puddles.
You went with 12. So you've been with 12 mics yesterday, and you got knee deep in. What did you say?
In some very big puddles, because the only way
right.
you go through them is by walking through them.
Excellent, excellente. Seems like you're out in the sticks somewhere.
That's right. Went for a very long walk around Fulmer.
Fulmer, is that where New Forest is at?
No, Fulmer is near Jarvis Cross.
Gerrard's Cross, is that where the oldest tennis court of the world is?
No. And then I went to South Buckinghamshire. So walked to Burnham Beaches. And
Burnham Beaches.
A place called Hedgerley. I did a round trip. And some of the viewers might have noticed managed to film some deer as well on the way back.
Deer. Yes. Deers. Horned deers or without the horns?
No horns.
No horns. Were they wild?
Yeah, wild deer, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Did you try to feed them, or did they come up to you, knowing that you go towards danger?
They were on the other side of a fence, but I did get a good sort of video of them. So they're on here from yesterday on the alternative channel.
Excellent. Okay. So, yes, Lakhi Singh, the Wikipedia life story of Lakhi Singh, the fascinating story that made you trying to get into the mindset of Mr. Singh, trying to work out, can we become like you if we try to emanate your life story? The saying of the week probably reflects you. It is, well, if you get offered a ticket on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat, just get in and take the ride, or words to that effect. So, Lakhi Singh, that sounds a bit like your life story, taking a rocket ship, being on another planet. So what do you say to that? Are you from another planet? Are you like Superman? Is it only kryptonite that can take your superpowers of social media mixing and social media influencing away? Because you are a bit of a social media influencer now in the square mile. So, kryptonite or no kryptonite? Are you from Venus? Are you from Krypton? Or are you just a mover and a shaker? A man who makes things happen? If you were offered a seat on a rocket, would you get on? Or would you ask them what seat? Especially if they give you a seat in the fuselage.
No, I wouldn't necessarily just get on. I'd actually, I'd be too busy moving and shaking to be actually getting on an aeroplane or a rocket ship or anything.
You're too busy making moves.
That's right.
Too busy doing the robot in Berkeley Square. Is that right, Mr. Singh?
That's right.
Are you a bit of a break dancer, maker of moves? And what type of moves are you making now in Berkeley Square?
I'm making every type of move you can think of.
Excellent.
But you really want to know, because if you knew what was in my head, then I think you'd be in paralysis.
Nobody wants to know what's in your head, Lakhi Singh. Okay, so the Wikipedia life story. I mean, we've gone through most of the main events. What I want to do now is I want to plug back into history, go back into those darker secrets within history and pull out the nuggets that made you who you are now. So, I mean, you've got a natural flair for dancing and for dancing in different styles as well. I know that. So you're a bit of a Bhangra expert. We know that. You also, apart from Bhangra, are a bit of a what's it called? A Spanish dancer, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, I can do about 10 different types of dances.
Bit Latino as well.
Yeah, I can do pretty much most dances, to be honest.
And is that one of the secrets of your success?
But I do enjoy dancing.
You do. And is that one of the secrets of your success?
Yeah, I would say so. I think having quite a jolly outlook and also not being afraid to enjoy myself and not taking life too seriously, that become wet lettuce.
Bob Singh says that, talking about the wet lettuce, he says that to you. Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, John Smith, Amar Ali, we've got Sonia, all saying hi this morning. They're all up bright and early, Monday morning, the beginning of the week, here to look and listen to the fascinating life story of Mr. Singh, trying to get into the details of those little important gaps that we've missed. So let's relate this week's saying. So if you were given a seat on a rocket ship and you are too busy to make moves, what was it in your previous life before you became who you are now, the influencer within the square mile? What was it that you were doing that would have always kept you too busy to take that one-way ticket on a rocket back to Krypton?
What is it that I was doing back then or what I'm doing now?
Well, throughout the exercise of your life, the things that we've uncovered, what was it that would have stopped you going back to Krypton? And obviously removing your superpowers, getting on a rocket.
I don't really know what you mean, actually, because I'm a bit confused now.
Okay, so the saying of the week is, once you are given a ticket on a rocket, don't ask what seat, just get on. So it's a bit of a statement of for a person who should be spontaneous, possibly someone looking for a bit of a thrill, and somebody who is up for the challenge. Now, how do you interpret the rocket then, and getting on a rocket and not fussing about the seat number, just getting on the rocket because it's about to leave? How would you interpret the rocket in your mind's eye? What is the rocket to you in your vast experience? Metaphorically, what does a rocket mean to you?
What it means to me is that it's the cut and thrust of life. If life is there, just jump straight in. Don't think about it, is the sort of interpretation that I've got of it. So I would probably say, yeah, in my younger years, I would probably just jumped on the rocket ship and not thought too much about it. Would probably gone for the experience. But I think now I'm more like elderly, or more like at a pension age. It's a bit different. I'm not the type of person that's going to just jump into anything. I'd probably be a lot more considerate about what and why and where and how do I get back, and because I've got a lot of other important work to do, which is to do with my let's just say my passions, which I'm very interested in actually fulfilling. So getting on a rocket may distract me from my core objectives. So question is, for me, it'd probably be a no if it was a literal thing. But as an analogy, it would be a no as well. I'm not really going to jump into the cut and thrust of.
What you mean to say is not now at this part in your life would you want to jump on a rocket because of the focus you've got in delivering certain objectives. Are you saying earlier on in your life you didn't really have objectives, but you would follow the course of whatever life threw at you?
I think it's a bit of a combo there. I was quite driven to be successful in business and property. It was always my objective to become very knowledgeable in those areas and become a mover and shaker, like as you put it. So I think I'd probably be more inclined to just get onto the cut and thrust of life and work with whatever's happening around me. But I think I'm at the point in the last few years, last 5-10 years especially, to be more considerate of what's happening around me. So I wouldn't necessarily jump straight into things. I'd be thinking, okay, is this something that I'm good at? Is it something that I want to be doing? Is this the right thing for me? Is this the right environment? Is this, in tune with my values, with my philosophy of life? These type of things would actually be important than just jumping straight into things. Doesn't necessarily mean, if it was more a social thing, like jumping out of an aeroplane or doing something that's spontaneous at a more of a social level, yeah, then fine, yeah, I'm happy to get into a rocket as long as I can come back in one piece within a couple of days. So I'm still up for a adventure, and a bit like Deborah Sophia Magdalene, who went to the Amazon and actually gave up more or less all her material things. I'm up for some adventure, but up to a point.
How do you then determine what adventure is? And how do you stop adventure taking its own course? I mean, are you in control when you're in an adventure, Lakhi Singh? Can you take control of an adventure?
I think you can. I think a lot of it comes down to preparation. If you're going hiking up Mount Snowdon, or you're going into the Amazon, if you've done your reading, you've spoken to people who've maybe been there before, understood the journey, and you're clear about what you're trying to achieve out of it, you're more likely to get something out of it that's more in line with what you want to achieve.
Excellent. Okay, so Lakhi Singh, we're gonna extrapolate from a lot of stuff that we've got about your life. So you spent your early days in India. What do you think is the difference between India then and now, or is it about the same? You think India and Indian life was a bit more simplistic then, or has it become like a great big economic beast now and it's no longer the friendly place it used to be, or is it still the same? And where were you last there? When did you last go back?
The last time I was in India was in 2000. I went for a 4-week trip and visited the relatives and did a trip to Delhi, Punjab, then Shimla, Udaipur, Jaipur, Goa, Bombay, then back to Delhi. So it's quite a full-on type of trip. And I got a sort of like an essence of India more as a sort of mature man, as opposed to being more of a young kid. Because obviously, when I was younger, I lived out there, and did visit there a couple of times, and after that, and also in my early sort of mid-20s, I went to India as well, early 20s. So yeah, I think my impression of India, which is a bit outdated now, I'd say, is that it's become very Americanized, very commercial. People, so you got two extremes of poverty, very rich and very poor, and I think there's a huge amount of let's say education that's missing from the general populace. So majority of the people are uneducated and living below the poverty line. So it's not an easy place to live. It's if you go to Bombay, for example, you can literally be driving about a mile away from one of the top 5-star hotels, and then 5-10 minute walk down the road, you might see a slum sort of area. Well, I don't know what they're called, but like shanty houses. So you see about 500 people living literally in some sort of shanty house, and it's all people living in dire poverty. So India is not an easy place to configure in your head, especially if you get used to the Western lifestyle, because basically we've got it easy here compared to anybody that's living in India who's below the poverty line. Because if even in this country at the moment, there are about 8 million people close to the poverty line, but there are a lot of government handouts. There's a lot of social housing benefits. There's also a medical system and an education system, which is pretty much free. So there's a lot that we have that we don't really even appreciate, to be honest. So I think we should count ourselves lucky, actually, to have such a good system to actually be there for us, to support us in our livelihood. Be it that it's tough at the moment, but there's still quite a lot of wealth. This is more of a welfare state compared to India.
Well, is that probably because the numbers are less though, Lakhi? I mean, everybody, totality, what you got UK that's 70 million strong, and India it's about 1.2 billion, big number difference.
I think it's not down to numbers. I think it's because if you broke India down into separate regions and you looked at each area as a separate country, then you might find by proportion to land to people, it works out about the same. I think India is about 15 times the size, I think, of England. I think try to
50 or 15?
15 times is my guess. I'm not sure, But if you did it as a rough calculation, it works out per population about the same amount of landmass. So I'm not sure if I agree with that point. I think a lot of it just comes down to how a government is run, how people are managed, how resources are allocated.
Okay, so let's suppose you haven't been back in it's about 20 years, I think. 20 years is what it makes now. Do you plan going back to India? I know you say you're a very religious, a spiritual person. So are you, and do you plan to go back to India?
I think my plan is to go to Pakistan because I'd like to visit some of the holiest shrines, which are actually on the Pakistan side of the border. Visit the birthplace of Guru Nanak and visit some of the other more holy temples in the mountains as well.
Yeah, excellent.
I think that's on the wish list. And I think going back to India would be good as well. I think most of our relatives are in Canada now. So if anything, probably need to go to Canada to catch up with a lot of uncles.
Excellent. So a lot of your family now are in Canada. So, okay, so everybody's left India, sunny India. So what's the situation back in India then? Who looks after the land and the livestock and everything else? What happens there? Or do you have no land or livestock?
Sold out pretty much a lot of their land and divested mostly from India. So anything that they've got is over here now. But we do have relatives, quite a few relatives still on my dad's side of the family. Majority of the family are actually in Canada.
Okay.
We do still have some relatives there, but it's minimal. But I think it would be nice to go back. You know, there's a lot of nostalgia having been brought up there in the sort of boarding school, in 2 different schools. So I visited one of the schools last time I visited, which is when I was.
Which one was that?
One in Shimla, Lakhi Public School.
Oh, right. So the boarding school that you were in.
That's right. I'd like to visit more the other one, which is in Patiala, which I didn't get.
The one where you were forced to put on those tights and stuff?
I never really put on tights. I think that's in your imagination.
Pardon?
That's in your imagination.
Okay, no. I'm just trying to recall, obviously, a lot of information to remember there. So that's the one where you had the lady from the Caribbean who ordered you to put tights on or something like that.
No, she would help me to write letters to my parents.
That's right.
And her tights, so that she could get the fine.
So like ransom letters, were they?
No, they were. They were asking for more information. Well, she's basically writing as if it's from me to say, my son really likes I really like my teacher. She's really good. Can you send this?
Excellent, excellent. Sounds like whoever knocks the hardest type of formula. Okay, so India, obviously 20 years ago, you haven't been back recent, and I think.
And the tights.
So what did you do with the tights?
My parents did send her the tights as well, which is quite funny.
Okay, so sent both of you tights. Okay, that's good to know. Pardon?
Just not me, but her.
Okay, so you didn't get the tights. Anyhow, as long as you weren't disappointed, that's the important thing. So 20 years ago, you've not been back to it. So obviously the roots or the heritage is somewhat diminished or dwindled, and it's not really, it's not fresh there. Okay, and I know that you're a very traveled, but at least you're a traveled person in terms of you like going across. Have you been anywhere in the recent past, anywhere apart from Europe, like you did in your early days? Have you been anywhere else? And what did you find about it?
Yeah, I've been to Canada.
All right, so you have been to Canada.
Yeah, been to Crete.
Crete.
Been to Northern Ireland.
Excellent, yeah.
Northern Ireland. Been to well, quite a few places. I used to travel for work quite a lot, so I've been to quite a few different places in the United States, Atlanta, New York.
All right, so you've actually been in Atlanta, where I think this young man, this gentleman, George Floyd, is that the city that he was killed in? George Floyd?
Yeah, I think it was. I can't remember now which city it was, to be honest.
Atlanta, I think. Yeah.
I was just talking to somebody the other day about this, which is that it's quite shocking, really, when you go to America, Atlanta, because you have when you're walking down the street, one side is black people, one side is white people.
Is it? Is it that apparent? Is it?
Yeah. So they've got quite a lot. They had quite a lot of segregation. You would see some black people on one side and some on the white on the other, but just a couple. But on the whole, they had like a street that was divided. On this side, you'd have a lot more of the white people hanging out, and this side would be all the black people sort of hanging out.
Okay, so
get my head around
quite
this.
shocking.
This is a little while back, so looks like if Atlanta is the same city, then you can sort of see really where some of these things or the deep-rooted ethos of the police may be coming from.
Mm-hmm. So, you went to America, and I think you mentioned you went recently as well on some road trip. I think Canada, was it? In America as well, was it? Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
I read in one of your journals that you went from Canada down to America, I think, across to the Rockies or Yellowstone.
I forgot about that. I went to Seattle.
Seattle, where? Okay, so you went to Seattle. And what did you find there? Was it as it was when you first went back in the days when you were in Deloitte?
When I was at Deloitte, that said, when I went to Atlanta and New York quite a lot, and Washington DC. But when I went independently to Seattle, I couldn't really tell much of a difference, to be honest, because I was only there for 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
With a quick sort of 3-day tour of Seattle. Got to see the outside of Microsoft headquarters in Redwood. Saw the headquarters outside of Google. And went to see the original Starbucks coffee shop as well. It was actually started off in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw past, you could say, the main woods where they filmed Twilight, which is a sort of like a semi-horror movie. So yeah, it's quite interesting. It's always good to sort of go and see something different, meet new cultures, and understand another way of life.
So okay, so America you've revisited. What do you feel then is the important lessons you draw from your travels? What do you normally come back and what do you take? Because I know you being a very deep, reflective person, and then also being very successful in business, being sort of a mover and shaker of the square mile. What do you take back from these, visits?
I think it is a little bit like if you don't go and visit these places, then life can just pass you by. So I think it's more of a once in a lifetime trip to Canada. I mean, if you haven't seen the sort of the mountains in the Rockies in Canada, I think you missed out on life, because it's one of the most spectacular sights that you can ever see in terms of the size of the mountains and the range of them. On the third or fourth day, I actually saw a bear, which was quite interesting, quite worrying as well.
You saw a bear. How far away was it?
It's literally like about 15 meters away, 20 meters away.
15 meters away, okay. And did it not try to gnaw you or to rip you apart?
No. I was going to jump into the car if it actually came towards me.
You're going to jump into the car, right? Okay, so he didn't try to, gnaw at you or rip you open, or rip open your sort of like your shirt or something.
No.
They don't attack all of a sudden. They are quite fast movers. Would have taught you a few moves. So, okay, so, I mean, what do you take away? Okay, you're missing out in life. What does that mean, though? How are you missing out in life if you haven't gone and seen these places?
Well, I think
what do you say to the fact that
went to see a family, because my brother and his wife are living in Canada for a time. So I think that was good, actually. I think it's more importantly, went to see them. And on top of that, managed to get a quite good little tour of Seattle. My brother took me around. That was really nice. And then I think going to Canada is more of a trip to see something completely different, because I've never been to Canada. Is to see the mountains, see the wild. Also went to see the whale, the orcas, the whales, dolphins.
Well, dolphins in the Rockies, isn't that a bit over egging what you've seen? Are you sure you saw them in the Rockies?
They're near Victoria Island, which is quite away from the Rockies, but I had to catch a plane from Vancouver to Calgary to go and see the mountains in a separate note. So I hired a car when I got there.
So you went to Calgary and you saw dolphins on a mountain. But dolphins, they need water?
So now Victoria Island was the first place I visited, and from there you could actually you could hire a boat and go for like a trip to see the dolphins and the orcas.
Okay. So did you actually see orcas then? What are orcas anyway for a lot of people, including myself? What's an orca?
Okay.
Is it like a massive feline, is it?
It's a slightly bigger version of a dolphin. So dolphin is probably about 1/6, maybe 1/10 the size of big.
What's an orca?
They're like they're whales. They're a type of whale, but they're not. They're sort of a medium-sized whale, so it's about the size of that's the size of a sort of limousine, a bit smaller than a limousine. Yeah.
Okay. So without the wheels.
Without the wheels, yeah. Just the
Okay.
paddle.
with the paddle. Right. Okay. So did you actually see orcas?
Yeah, saw quite a few of them.
And was it quite fascinating? Was it scary watching these orcas swim by your boat?
That wasn't scary. I think we were the professional tour guides. So it's quite fascinating, sort of looking at them. You normally just see them on TV on David Attenborough show or something. So it's quite interesting.
What about the dolphins?
Yeah, the dolphins I'd seen before, so that wasn't as interesting. But when you travel to the Mediterranean Sea, to Italy or to Spain or Portugal, it's quite interesting.
Okay, so you went there and you saw dolphins and orcas, and you saw dolphins in the Rockies as well, which I don't believe, but we'll take your word for it. And you've also seen them on a mountain. Were they skiing, or did you ski?
No, I didn't ski, actually, thinking about it. Just went. I don't think it was skiing season when I went. It was probably pre-skiing season. Slopes were quite dry, but I did have some amazing, breathtaking sort of panoramic views where you could literally see thousands of meters below you. Place Banff, which is really amazing. It's just quite a well-known ski resort. So I did actually go up to the ski lifts and took in all the panoramic views and had a nice cup of coffee and some food. So that was pretty amazing, actually. That was still something that's pretty memorable.
Excellent. Okay, and did you go to Niagara Falls? Did you manage to go across to the west or the east coast? I mean, to Buffalo.
No, we didn't really go to the east coast. Just stayed on the west coast and the Rockies.
Okay. So, I mean, that just tells us that you've done a bit more than you let out. You've seen lots of different. So, what are the lessons you bring back? I know you're saying it's a like a life-changing experience. So, what are you taking back? How does it apply to your business? We have Sonia, who says she was in Jamaica for about 9 or 10 months, and she was out there working and boating at the same time. A bit difficult, carry your laptop on a boat. But anyhow, I assume she was probably boating on a different time and working at a different time. But yeah, Lakhi, what do you draw from that? Where do you apply that in your business life? Or do you just take it as a time away from the desk? Do you bring anything back with you when you've been to these exciting trips?
Yeah, I usually just bring presents for my parents, and so that's quite nice. And bring pictures and memories, so you can look back and enjoy the times that you have in terms of getting away and taking some time out. So I think it's good to have some me time and chill out a bit and enjoy yourself. Not to take life too seriously, otherwise you're too busy doing rather than busy living.
Excellent. So we've got a shout out or a like from Harpreet Grover, who's watching us on YouTube. So he likes what he's hearing, Lakhi Singh, likes what he's hearing from you in terms of your experiences. Okay, you're just trying to digress and go into having the element of, but do you find people who haven't traveled, who are stuck in their little prism of whatever their life is about, the work, the home, the work, and the shopping, and then back home, those who've not even left their town their whole lives, are those people slightly narrow in their thinking, do you say, Lakhi Singh, or do you find them to, also be just as broad in their thinking and open as you are?
But I think can't really judge people in that way. I think, but I think on the whole, being having travelled and having the luxury to be able to spend time abroad and see things, it doesn't necessarily mean that you become narrow-minded if you don't. It just means that you may not really have as many perspectives or understanding of life in the same way. So, yeah, I think it is difficult to maybe relate to people who are maybe, let's say, country bumpkins who've never been out of their pind or their village. You go and meet somebody in the Somerset or in like a little village somewhere, and they've never really left England. But America is a little bit like that. You get a lot of people that have never really left or been abroad or seen anything, because they see America itself as many countries. They don't really see America as one. So they see each state as like another major place to go to, because America is so vast in its size. You could literally you've got 52 states to visit. It's like visiting 52 different countries.
Is it though, really, or are they not all sort of about the same? Are they all different? Did you see the difference between Seattle and Atlanta, or what's it now? Calgary? Were they all the same? Were they different in their orientation?
I think the general infrastructure and the layout's quite similar, but the terrain's quite different, because you've got, for example, I think it's called New Columbia, is where the Rockies are. The terrain is completely just full of mountains. And then if you go down to the south, to America, you get so many different areas, from New York, Manhattan Island, to Washington, which is
East Coast,
quite different. So you get a lot of diversity, I'd say, still about it. But the general building infrastructure is quite similar, because America is quite one of the youngest countries in the world. I mean, it's only about 300-400 years old, so it hasn't got tons and tons of history.
Okay, man. Right. Okay. So you went to New York as well. You say, Lucky, Manhattan and Staten Island.
That's
so you're
right.
on the East Coast. You're at the East Coast as well, then. So you did go over to the East Coast.
Yeah. Well, I went. Used to go for work. For when I used to work for Deloitte. Used to do quite a lot of seminars and presentations to.
What do you find about the American culture then? Is it as it's shown on television? Is it loud? Is it very bossy, or are they normal in terms of what normality could be regarded as in United Kingdom? Are they a bit more conservative? Are they soft and quiet, or are they loud and noisy?
I think I suppose every state has a different culture. I think as you go south, maybe I think they're a bit more laid back. In the North America, New York, people are a lot more serious. So one of the most peculiar things is going networking or meeting people. They're a lot more blunt when it comes to networking. It's a bit like when you meet, you almost have to say, yeah, my name's Lakhi Singh. I work as the head of internet. So it's a very matter of fact. It's not too much. It's not too jokey or relaxed. So people tend to be very much about. It's very commercial.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like that so much in England. I think people tend to have a little bit more je ne sais quoi when they're when they're meeting other people, they're not quite in your face about what they do, unless it's a very high-end business networking where you get a lot of international delegates. So it's quite interesting, actually, the dynamics that you get in different countries based upon the culture and the way they do things over there. So I think the New York is generally a bit more brash and a bit more in your face and quite aggressive generally as well.
Okay, and what about the South? So did you go to Mississippi or some of these states in the South?
And I've never been to the South. So I think going to New Orleans or Mississippi, I think those are probably on the wish list at some stage.
Excellent.
Maybe next year.
Right. Okay. So you've done Americas and you did Europe, and obviously in Europe you would have. Did you find Europe to be a bit more friendlier, a bit more welcoming? Was there a difference?
Yeah, to be honest, America was quite scary every time I've been there because you get extremes. So when I've been to Miami as well and to the Florida Keys, I went on a conference, one of my first jobs at AT&T, and I actually drove all the way from Orlando to Miami and then to the Florida Keys, which is quite scary. And because I went on my own, I didn't really know anybody. I find that the culture in Europe, in some ways, in certain countries like Italy, they're because they're not a part of the sort of Commonwealth. They tend to be quite narrow in their thinking because in Italy, majority of the people are Italians, and there is very little diversity. So you see very few other cultures. And if they do see a Sikh gentleman or a Chinese person or a Japanese person, for them it's a bit of a novelty. So you wouldn't really be treated as Lakhi Singh. You'd be treated as, wow, it's a Sikh guy. And he looks like an actor that we've seen on TV or something. He looks like Kabir Bedi or something. So I'd have people coming up to me wanting my autograph, thinking I'm some sort of Bollywood actor. So it's quite, I really enjoyed it because treating a bit like a novelty was quite nice. But at the same time, it's a bit disconcerting as well that they haven't really seen any Sikhs before. So I had to explain to them what a Sikh is every time. And half the time.
How would you explain to? Would you have to explain to me in Italian then? Or you actually?
That's right. Yeah. I'm fluent in Italian.
How would you explain to them in Italian what a Sikh is then, Lakhi Singh? Go and try and explain to me. I've seen you. I'm looking at you like a new animal that's been brought into the local zoo. I'm sort of like checking you up and down. And talking about a zoo, we have Mr. Noor on and Rachel. Good morning to both of you. Good saying hi to us. Right. Yeah. So, I see you, start checking you out, looking at this new creature. Where have you come from? So how would you explain to me in Italian what you are, and for me not to be afraid of you, that you may run away with my lunch pack?
So I didn't quite catch the question.
So I see you. I'm in Italy. I'm in Italian. And I see you, and I think, what's this new creature that's come to our part of the world? Will it run away with my lunch pack? Can I offer it some biscuits or something? How would you respond to that?
I wouldn't necessarily worry about it because everybody's got their own level of ignorance, and I'm sure I'm ignorant about lots of things myself. So I wouldn't necessarily be judging people because they know no better. So I would just humor them and just try to.
In Italian, how would you? I'm saying.
All right, I'll just say Ciao, io sono
Vabbè,
sono Lakhi Singh. Io
yeah.
sono indiano, ma abito a Londra, ma mettiamo questo turbante perché in nostra religione tutte le persone non tagliano i capelli, mettono i capelli lunghi, anche mettono un bel turbante perché questo è importante per la nostra religione.
Very nice.
Do you get all of that?
Yeah.
Shall I translate that for you?
Go on then.
So I would say my name's Lakhi Singh. I'm from England, but originally our family is from India, and I'm of a religion which is called Sikhism, which means to learn. And we have long hair. We don't cut our hair, and we wear these wonderful turbans, which actually allows everybody to be aware that we are Sikhs. Something along those lines.
Excellent. And
My English is probably not as good as my Italian, to be honest.
Excellente, excellente. So what would be the response then? How would you? What was the response of people that you were giving this little summary to? Would they be more intrigued and ask you more questions? Like, do you eat food? Can I give you a biscuit? Would they do that? Or how would they treat you?
Well, I think a lot of the people I met were either quite despondent or they're fascinated. You didn't have much in the middle. I think the majority of the people I met were quite interested in the culture. I think I actually sat down with somebody and I actually taught them Punjabi in 2 hours, which I translated the Italian into Punjabi syllables so they could actually learn a few words and say a few sentences. So it had that level of interest.
Okay.
But the most interesting thing is that while I was in England, before I went to live in Italy for 4 or 5 months, I had over 20 invites from different people inviting me over to Italy because I think they were quite intrigued or I think they were hospitable. So I think it's probably a combination. It wasn't just the hospitality. I think there's a level of intrigue, so they wanted me to maybe
genuine intrigue to want to know about you and what you stand for. Genuine intrigue to know what you stand for, what you're about.
That's right. I think for them, I was probably a bit of a novelty. It's a bit like a famous actor or something, or a Bollywood actress or actor coming to London, and seeing them for them is a bit like that type of thing. So I actually enjoyed that. It was good fun. So I met a lot of interesting people, went to a lot of good parties, and had some amazing hospitality. I think hospitality that you can't really imagine in 1,000 years, because one particular family, they asked me to come over and I stayed around their house for about 2 months, and they took me out every single night. I think apart from 2 nights when I was ill, I had some flu. Every single night they take me to a party or a dinner or to the mountains or to the beach or to Venice. So I was I was a bit spoiled, to be honest, a bit like a big spoiled kid. In some ways it's quite good because I was a bit like fish out of water because I never left home before. I'm used to being at home with mummy and mum actually doing the cooking, Desi style.
Yeah.
So it's probably one of the most exciting and interesting times in my life. And the strangest thing was that I didn't really learn any Italian because they all spoke in dialect.
Okay.
So that was quite funny. So I think they'd have to translate to me when they were talking. But after about 2 months, I could actually pick up what they were saying in dialect, and they didn't need to explain it to me. It's kind of funny. So I learned dialect, Italian, Venetian dialect first, and then I learned Italian afterwards, which is kind of strange.
Okay. Venetian dialect is what's the south, is it, of Italy? Is it more like country?
It's the northeast of Italy. It's from Venice. So they speak in a particular, every region in Italy has got its own dialect. So one of the things I'm quite good at doing is when I meet Italian people, I know about at least 6 or 7 dialects from different regions. from Sardinia, Rome, Napoli, Milano, and Venice. And I can actually make a few jokes in the local accents. So I think they find it quite fascinating. So when they meet me, they normally find it quite funny. Somebody Italian meets me for the first time, find it quite funny, first of all, that I speak Italian. Then I break into their dialect, and they get equally shocked. But it's a very good way of breaking the ice and making friends.
Excellent. And it's probably not good for somebody who doesn't understand Italian, obviously. Only for those who can understand. Yeah. Okay. So we got Cam also that says good morning this morning, listening in to Lakhi Singh and the many talents, linguistic skills that you have sort of told us about. Anywhere else, Lakhi, your Northern Ireland visits, did you pick up any Irish dialects like Gaelic? Can you speak Gaelic?
Well, I went to Ireland over there. They speak really fast over there, and they say use things like no bother. They say things like what about you? What about you means how are you? And no bother means no problem. And it's kind of strange, when they speak really quickly over there like this, So I sort of picked it up, but it's not. I don't know what it sounds maybe a bit Scottish, What do you reckon?
It sounds more like somebody who is lost in translation somewhere in between.
Do you think I've lost my marbles? Is what you're trying to say?
Somewhere in between, but I think there's a touch there. You got a few dialects coming out there all at the same time. It's a bit like Terminator when he kills the liquid. What's it now? What series is it? Series 3 is it? And they all come out. When he finally kills it, throws it into a boiling pot of iron. All of the various characters start coming out. I think that's what you've done there. But anyhow, we're in the last few minutes.
You've got a lot of different accents, by the way.
Go on then. You got a last minute, Lakhi Singh. Tell us how many accents you've got.
Sorry?
Last 1 minute. How many accents do you have, sir?
I think I could do Scottish, Birmingham, Northern Irish, Surrey accent. I can do East London. And I can do, I think that's about it, really. I think I can't do many others. There's a few others that I could do, but I might not do them justice.
Excellent. Carolyn Williams from Wales says good morning. And we've got a Sagir Raja also this morning who says good morning. Okay, we're trying to make, we're attempting to start making the group a bit more interactive. So we do invite people to dial through if you want and ask a question, because obviously we do Wikipedia live stories a bit more relaxed, mellow tone, talking about Lakhi's experiences and his life. But excuse me, Tuesday to Friday, obviously we go into topics, and we do invite everybody on the alternative property and business solutions community to dial through and tell the team if they've got an important question. If you want to ask the question yourself and be part of the drive time session, we are more than welcome to have you on, ask your questions yourself. Who do we have on tomorrow? Right, we've got Cameron Chambers, I think, is that right? That's been said correctly. We've got him on tomorrow, so we're going to have an interesting conversation with him as well. And as we say again, we're trying and attempting to get the group members to come on and ask questions live, or maybe even send recordings of their questions in if we can actually manage it, and we will attempt to answer those questions on the alternative business and property solutions community. Lakhi Singh, lovely speaking to you and listening to your Wikipedia life story and your various experiences of travel and tourism. We shall see you next week again with the Wikipedia life story of Lakhi Singh, the property fixer. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. as usual. I think the clock has gone back an hour. So you've had an extra hour to sleep, I believe, this morning, Lakhi. How does it feel having an extra hour to sleep?
It feels really good, actually. I've managed to get into the office today. As you can see, I'm in the boardroom. So it's fantastic. I think this is going to set me up for the week.
Excellent. I think we should have the clocks back every week, and therefore you'll feel better. Take care, Lakhi Singh. Speak to you tomorrow morning,
guys.
8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Lakhi Singh, the